Funsize Show!
Welcome back to Currents, a Funsize design podcast. My name is Tony Sanchez, and today we have a handful of newbies, I kind of think. And I think today is going to be really cool because I've pulled together some discussion topics that I think could be interesting to talk about. Some of the things that I think might resonate with y'all to some degree. Maybe not. Maybe something you never thought about or haven't thought about yet. Before we dive in, who are you? Who do we have here? To my right. Let's start to my right.
My name is Dina Williams. I'm a staff product designer at Funsize.
I'm Tarica Phung Navarro, and I am also a senior product designer.
I'm Jack Willis, and I'm a senior product designer at Funsize.
Hey, welcome. How do you all? Well, first of all, like how does it feel being behind the mic for the first time on Currents?
I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty electric. Yeah, I'm feeling it right
For
now.
the first time on
running through me.
Currents. How do you know we haven't been on anything else?
That's a good question. Have you been on anything else?
Yes, actually.
What? Which one?
When I was a teenager.
Oh wait, what?
Were you on a radio show?
No. So when I was in college, I was an intern, and I went back to Thailand to intern. I was at school at USC, but I went back to Thailand to intern for a TV station because I wanted to work in media. And the TV host called in sick that day, or they lost the TV show. I don't know what happened, but it was for like a teen educational show. So they were like, "You go, screen test, go," and I hosted the entire summer
What?
of 8. Yes,
Wait,
on
you were
Thai national TV.
and you were an
This is a
intern at the time.
nationalized broadcast.
Correct.
Oh wow.
So
So-
they basically got free.
They didn't pay you?
No.
So would this exist on like YouTube?
No. I tried looking it up because it would be pretty funny. It does not exist.
That would be awesome.
Wow.
No.
Do you remember any of the educational things that you were spouting? Was it
No.
like food pyramid? Was it
It
safe
was
interaction
like
between
visiting.
teens?
It was visiting various, not historical sites, but I feel like we visited some like agricultural places. We did like a catwalk thing that was, I don't know, random stuff.
That
Yeah.
sounds cool.
It was.
So I
wrap
take it back.
because-
I take that back. You're a seasoned professional.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You should be
this
leading.
makes me hot and
You're
sweaty.
leading. You're leading this conversation from here on out.
Yeah, this is low stakes compared to the Thai government, right? Yeah.
I was wondering
Currents,
why.
what is that?
You know, I was wondering. Tarica doesn't seem very nervous about this thing. There's a reason why. Okay,
Not
got
sure.
it.
I just
Cool.
hide it.
That's the stage presence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
What about you, Dina? How you feel?
Oh, this feels very legit. So
Yeah.
this feels pretty cool. Like Jack said, electric.
It's electric.
It's a very
Yeah.
electric vibe in here right now.
The vibes are very high. Ambiance is high. We're ready. We're ready.
Okay, cool. Well, to get us started, have a kind of I guess a designer, a niche like designery thing that I'm curious about. Because I was putting some things together in Figma the other day, and it just kind of dawned on me like people do things differently, right? You're all individuals, obviously. So whenever you're going to select a color, right? Let's say you
Mhm.
create a shape on the canvas, then you need to make it black. You go to the color picker.
Mhm.
Where do you choose the black color that you're going to use?
Bottom left hand corner.
I just drag
all the
it
way
down.
Bottom. So that's on the white to black scale.
Yeah, bottom left hand. I'm just going. I think that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It always ends up being like 0, 0, 0.
I think it's zeros. Yeah.
But
It depends.
I don't type it in. I drag it.
Yeah, it depends.
Yeah.
I don't like 0, 0, 0, 0 because I feel like it's too harsh most of the time. I know. I'd like to make it a little. So I'm like 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, or
Oh,
I'll kind
okay,
of just like
okay.
switch it to HSL mode, and then I'll like increase or
Well,
decrease
okay.
the light.
Pause. What does
Okay.
HSL mean? I have no idea.
Hue, saturation.
Oh, okay. Okay.
lightness.
I knew that. I was
And
testing.
then I
you.
go up
Mm.
or down because it gives me a fake sense of control.
Oh.
You
Okay.
guys know I track every transaction.
Yeah, we were just talking about the slightly absurd obsessiveness of Tarica's personal life of tracking
Mhm.
her finances to the penny, which is amazing. I respect that, but I don't know if that's me.
Yeah. You have to have that personality. Obsessive.
You kind of have to have that dog in you.
Yeah, you
Is what
gotta,
you're
gotta have
saying?
that dog.
To track finances.
Yeah, yeah.
What kind of dog would that be?
What kind of dog would that be?
That's a good question.
a Rottweiler's approach to accounting.
No, okay, I know exactly. A border collie.
Oh, yeah.
Because like I've
Restless, ADHD.
well,
you know,
no,
yeah.
like from a fetch perspective.
Mhm.
You ever played fetch with a border collie?
Mm.
Obsessive about the ball.
Uh-huh.
Right, you'll throw it, they will run and get it and bring it, and usually set it right in front of you, take a few steps back, and like kind of go down on the belly,
Mm.
waiting. So I'd imagine it's a border collie.
Yeah,
Mm.
sure. I wait for the transactions to come in.
Okay, Jack. Which so you're 0, 0, 0, 0 on the scale.
Yeah, I think pretty much every time.
Yeah.
I don't really pay attention to color. I mean, is that my job?
Like-
Is that design based?
So Tarica,
No comment.
you're slight off black.
Uh-huh.
Okay, Dina.
I mean, I'll do if I'm just like, doing wireframes or something, I'll just drag it down to the 0, 0, 0.
That is the difference. If it's
Yeah.
wireframes, it's just the 0.
But it's not until like later that I feel like we really truly set like what is black in this system. And then I'll use that. And then I'll like have it in the styles like saved.
Mm.
As
Yeah,
like, a
same.
variable.
Mhm.
So yeah.
But see, I'm bad about even going to the styles. Like I will on the final pass, but I pretty much make it as difficult as possible for myself the entire time I design because I fail to use all of the rails and systems that are set up to
What
make
does
our
that
job.
say about your life?
It says a lot. I'm not a border collie. I'm not a border collie. That's for
What
sure.
would you be?
Oh gosh.
A Jack Russell.
Yeah, I think
Jack Russell.
they're maybe more put together. I don't know. But anytime I design, I'm not paying attention
That's
as
right.
much as I
I'm
should.
so intense about like connecting everything. So I'm like, I don't want to have to set it again. Like I want everything to be connected. And if it's not, I'm going to create a new thing and it's going to be
Mm.
You are
You're
really
You're
good
very
about that.
systematic. You're
Yeah.
very systematic.
Yeah. I know that if I'm going in and working on one of Dina's files, that it's set.
Yep.
It's easy to find everything. All the layers are named. You're never going to have like 1,000 numbers behind it's just like perfection.
I feel like that's true of both of you though. And I get hot on the back of my neck when I have to share a file with somebody because I know that they're going to have all these styles and stuff that I have not applied and there's no naming scheme. I mean, that's not always true, but it's true enough of the time.
I mean,
I don't
their
love it.
naming scheme frame 13,004.
That's true.
Mhm.
It's an
Numerically,
advanced system.
numerically.
You
I mean,
wouldn't
it's mostly for
understand.
me because, like, then otherwise I'll like spend so much time being like, how far apart should these things be? But if you have a system, you're like, it's either 32 or 24.
Okay,
And there's
that's right.
like no in
Mm.
between.
That makes
Like,
Okay.
I
What
love the
about-
logic. I do. I love it.
What about whenever you're putting, this is more on whenever there's more breadth of color involved in the things you're making. Is there any signature color that you sneak in?
Ooh.
I mean, sometimes it's hard because we work under constraints that were set beyond us, but I'm just curious.
I feel like if I put in a color, I'll grab something from the recents, like it usually has a collection of your recent colors. And I usually go to, I don't know. I feel like there's some kind of marigold colors that I like. And I feel like pop off the screen that I find myself reaching for.
Mhm.
What about you guys?
I tend to gravitate towards like kind of warm tones. And sometimes I find that when I pick a color palette, it looks very similar to what I've done in the past, despite trying my very hardest to create something unique. So yeah, it's like very sort of retro, warm, kind of tertiary color scheme. And then I'm like, no, do something completely different. And then it ends up kind of leaning towards that again.
I've noticed that a little bit, I think, of like spectrums, like pendulum, like I'll like have a palette and it's like this way. And then I'll kind of like not go completely on the opposite end of that spectrum, but like, I got to do something different. And then it just kind of goes back and forth like that.
But do you have any, what are your personal tricks to like get away from that? Because I know, at least for me, to move away from that, I will go to like, say, Pinterest, right? And pick not color schemes, but images or illustrations that I like. And then I will just like eye drop things just to push me out of that,
Yeah. I think it's still available. I'm sure it's still available. Cooler,
I was just gonna say
Kuler, the Adobe
Yeah,
tool. Like I will find like a color, like a singular color that I'm like, okay, this is a good color. And I'll plug it into their tool and then go to like complementary, triad, mono, and just see if any of those palettes resonate and then adjust from there.
I use that all the time because
Mhm.
you pick a color and then you just randomize it with the space bar, and then it just immediately gives you so many different ideas, and you just pick out one other color that feels good, feels right. You save that and you can keep adding. It it at the same time, it makes me feel less capable and more capable because I'm like, oh, I feel like I should understand some color theory about this, or like have
Like
some
AI.
some idea of
Oh.
what's going on here. And
We
then
will get to that. We will get to
feel like a
that.
tool.
Yeah. Spoiler alert. AI will be mentioned in this episode.
And it's making me realize that I have not done anything with color or a new system in a long time. I've been working like really in systems where like the primary colors are already set. So I was going to be like, oh, I love a light gray instead of a white. Like, cause I feel like the whites are too harsh.
Yeah.
So like I'll do like a light gray.
Dogs don't see color, Dina. So this is kind of
That's the kind of dog I have.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's a good segue to move on. Circled back to the dogs.
Of course.
Okay. So, thinking about us coming together, I was like, what could be interesting to talk about with these folks? And I feel like that you all are obviously creative people. And I was wondering if you wonder, like, how often or what do you in your brain, like, do you wonder about things? I'll get to why in a minute. I just want to start there.
What do you mean wonder about?
Like, well, okay. Well, I found this article, and it started with a Tom Waits quote, and I'll read the quote, and then you might know why I'm asking this. So Tom Waits says, "Everything is explained now. We live in an age when you say casually to somebody, 'What's the story on that?' and they can run to the computer and tell you within 5 seconds. That's fine, but sometimes I just as soon continue wondering. We have a deficit of wonder right now." Meaning that any answer is accessible right now. So do you just sit and wonder about things?
I do, but that makes me think of something else that's sort of relevant to
Okay.
this. It must have been on a radio show I was listening to, I don't know, years ago. I can't remember who was talking about it, but they said, back in the 90s, if you wanted to know something, it was hard to find out a lot of the time. And his example was he was asked on a radio show, or like, it was like, call in if you know where Ted Nugent was born. And this guy said, for the life of me, I couldn't figure out where Ted Nugent was born for like years.
Oh.
And he had wondered about that. Like, where do I even get this information? It's sort of obscure. So
Yeah.
it kind of makes me think about that,
Mm-hmm.
that line of thinking. But what I wonder about is when people are wrong, like when you wonder about things and they're wrong, and I'm not necessarily interested in finding out if it's true or not. I'm like, oh, I'll just kind of accept that, and then I'll think about that later if they're wrong or not. So there are times when I'm not directly looking it up.
Yeah.
Are you okay? So you're not looking up. You're not fact checking them. You'll kind of take their word for it.
The example I'd give is when you have a conversation with your friends and somebody says something, and you're like, you just kind of you raise your eyebrows a bit. I'm like, that didn't feel right. I'm not really going to look it up, but I'm going to think about that later on. Like, you were probably wrong. And that's what I feel like I wonder about the most.
Yeah. What about the rest of y'all? In response to that quote, I guess, like,
So it's interesting that you take inspiration from like a musician, right? For me, the closest inspiration for me that is that same sense of like wonder and innocence. And I can't believe I'm calling Tom Waits innocent, but more like creative, boundless creativity, right?
Yeah.
I actually get a lot of that from my kids.
That's exactly why I picked this topic, is because you're the only one at the table that has kids.
Yeah. So I get a lot of that from my kids because they are there day in and day out telling me about all the things that they do wonder.
Mhm.
And Ananda, especially, she is 11 now, she always comes up to me and she's like, Mama, I had a dream that blah, 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 blah. And my first question is always, were you awake or were you asleep?
Mm.
Because she calls her daydreams or her imagination just dreams. She doesn't distinguish between sleep time dream and, I mean, she does, but to her, they're all dreams. And she'll say, I did this and I did that. And she just kind of lets herself, let her mind wander. And I always wonder when we lose that ability as adults, because for me, I don't do that as much. I will have a question and then I'll reach for my phone and immediately I'll look up the answer and then I'll go through all these rabbit holes and then find all sorts of interesting facts. But I don't allow myself to stay in that space for too long because I get antsy because I know that I can find the answer. If I go lay in bed and I don't have that answered, I will lay there all night thinking about it, you know?
Yeah. And Perplexity, like I use that a lot too. Like any question I have, I'll ask it immediately. And then it gives you like the suggested questions too. So I don't even wonder about the next question I should ask.
It just sends you.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And what's crazier for me is, okay, we're talking about fact checking, right? My lazy person's approach to fact checking is I will use AI to fact check itself. And I'm like, well, what did Claude say about this? What did
interesting.
ChatGPT say? And then I'll compare the three sources. And I'm like, they said the same thing. It's probably correct. Instead of just going and reading the sources myself, that's my cheat.
It's really interesting. You mentioned something though, like because you went and looked for the answer, you also were able to learn other things.
Yeah.
Which is like, I didn't think about that whenever I was looking and reading this article. It's like the exploratory discovery side of finding an answer is like, you probably will pick up other things along the way.
It makes me think of crate digging, like when you were looking for records back in the day. Like you go through, that was the term they used because if you're looking for a cool album, you stumble on something else, and a lot of that is kind of taken out of the equation now because if you're led directly to the answer, then you don't have as much stuff to bump into.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. Have you guys ever heard of Twyla Tharp?
No.
I think I'm pronouncing her, maybe I'm butchering her name. But she was a ballet dancer, and she talks about showing up for the practice every day, regardless of whether you know what you're going to do. And she calls it scratching. But that really resonates with me with the record digging also, because it's like if you show up and you just scratch at the surface, eventually something will show up, even if it's not the exact thing that you're looking for, but you will meander your way into something interesting. So, yeah.
Interesting.
It always feels like the best, this is sort of related to wonder, but the best ideas that I'll have will be kind of in the midst of something, because before you start some sort of pursuit, you'll think about it like, oh, it should be like this is going to be the structure of this kind of project, this creative endeavor. And then you'll find when you're in the middle of that, it will lead to some sort of thought that you couldn't have had before you started this thing. And so you'll think like, oh man, I should actually do this now, or this gives me an idea for that. And that is just part of the discovery process where you are wondering as you're doing things. And the more that answers are provided to you beforehand, it kind of takes away your ability to get in the middle of something or to think about questions that you should be asking yourself or things you should be doing. So anytime, what you said made me think about this, like just being in the middle of that and scratching the itch, I think, is that the...
Yeah, like trusting the process?
Yes. You're itching, you're scratching, you've got hives for this project.
Yeah.
And when you're in the thick of it, then your mind, thinks about other additional cool things you can do.
Yeah, no, I think that's very right. Like, as you said, that was like realizing how many things that like I just don't really know until I start doing it. You don't even know what questions to ask until you're in the middle of it. Like,
okay, this will happen to me all the time when I'm using, and if we're jumping into AI too soon, when I'm using ChatGPT or something, I'll ask it a question and it'll give me an answer, and then I'll have no idea how to ask another question. Like the fact that something's been given to me, I'll be like, I know I should ask something else.
Oh yeah.
I don't know what I should ask. And then I'll try and think of a question. I'll squeeze my brain in that moment to be like, all right, well, what do I ask after this? And then I'll ask, and then the interaction will be one or two back and forths when I had initially intended to come and like have this big conversation and discover the secrets of the universe with this AI, and it doesn't happen. And I find that I can get way more use out of that if I just put everything that's in my brain on the page beforehand, because it responding to me will short circuit what I'm thinking about.
Interesting.
I guess.
So you feel like the way that you're using AI currently, or at least with ChatGPT, is like stunting your creativity? process because it gives too much upfront.
Yes.
Like it's too helpful.
Yes, it is. It is too helpful, and then it makes me dumb in the moment. I just don't know. I don't know how to follow up.
This is a very topical, a very like thing being discussed right now. And I thought about, I definitely had an article related to that. Like the more well, I mean, I don't know if it's actually scientifically proven, but like whenever younger folks are using ChatGPT, all these like AI tools are like cognitively, or like, what do you call it? Stunting their growth cognitively from like how to actually think about constructing. Well, that's why they're talking about why writing is so important.
Yeah.
Is because it's you're using your brain to construct the thought into something you're putting on the paper.
Totally.
But using these tools like, just ask a question, copy paste. I don't have to think about it. Anyway.
Pancake how? Like,
Yeah. Oh,
I shorten
that
my-
too.
my-
That too.
I don't
Yeah.
write in like full sentences
Yeah.
to the AI ever. But I
Yeah.
think, and Nicole does. She was saying like she actually talks like a normal person to it. But I'm like, how this?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, it's so
Very
good.
caveman.
It's so good at interpreting shorthand. You don't really have to.
Yeah.
Mhm.
No, but I do wonder about that too, where like not just with AI, but like with all these tools, like we're like offloading all of this like cognitive work that we used to have to do to like remember things, or like even just as simple as like just putting all your stuff on like a little reminders app. And like now like I'll find like, when they text you those little codes to like log in, it's like 6 letters. I'm like, I can't even remember those. So I'm like, how much of this are we like, now that we're not using these muscles in our brain, it's just going away because we're offloading all of that to our technology.
Yeah, I worry about that too. And I also worry about like the hallucinations and like it leading me down the wrong path. And I think it's like, okay, it's very clear now that I'm a control freak when it comes to certain things. That's
Hey,
clear.
we didn't say that.
So,
You voluntarily
I
said
No,
that.
I'll say it. I'll say it right now. You're in control.
so I want to be able to at least have some sort of control about the direction that the conversation's going. And so I have started to put some guardrails on my own prompts. And instead of asking for the answer, I'll say, how should I think about this?
Oh, wow.
Help me think through this process. Or what am I, here's my thought process. What else am I missing here? What am I not seeing? So that's how I've been using it lately, which again gives me some semblance of control.
Interesting.
So you're like, how can I think about this rather than
Correct.
having it? Do all
I'm
the thinking
using
for you?
it to support me and to supplement my thoughts, right? Rather than trying to get it to generate something completely original, I'll use it as another person where I am just kind of like beating around ideas together, Yeah.
Okay. This reminded me of something that I was thinking about the other day too. You were not there. But we went to a happy hour the other day. You were there. And it was before whatever last episode of Severance or whatever came out, and y'all were talking about it. And
Is this a
that
spoiler
and
alert?
no,
Okay.
no spoilers for the listeners. I've never seen it. But that to me, because I had read this article like about a week or so ago, or before that moment, and I was like, oh, this is some active like wondering happening right now, because think back to whenever series came out like once a week,
Mhm.
and so like the thing you're watching came out, and then you had to wait a week until the next episode or whatever came out, and so we were thinking about that and like, oh, I wonder what's going to happen next. So conspiracy theories, all this. And so like, I was really intrigued the other day whenever hearing y'all talking about that, because I was like, oh shit, like this is actually happening right now.
Yeah, I feel like that doesn't happen with a lot of shows anymore either, because they release the whole season all at once.
Yeah.
So like people just go through them at their own pace. But like, yeah, like this is doing the weekly things. Like, yeah, you get to have lots of time to just kind of like marinate on things, or like just turn them over in your head. Like,
Yeah. I came across something recently. It was talking about how I think it was later Gen Xers, maybe earlier millennials, are part of the last generations that had like shared media narratives for the most part, like watching the same shows, the same movies, the same kind of cultural moments that came out at the same time. So everybody was seeing those things, interpreting them, talking about them, and then it really branches out into a million different degrees once the internet comes along and is more prevalent in our lives, because how many YouTube channels are there for kids to watch
Mhm.
and all this stuff. So you don't have the same shared cultural language a lot of the time,
Interesting.
which is kind of sad, you know. And
Yeah.
that's what I think is so nostalgic and fun about Severance and these big TV moments that come along. Is like we're all waiting for this. You know, when is the show going to come out? What's going to happen? And it kind of harkens back to that a little bit.
Yeah, I agree with that. They are intentionally, forcing us to not have that instant gratification, right? But instead of the instant gratification, what we're getting is this kind of like collective experience where each week we're having something shared to look forward to.
Mm.
And it also reminds me a little bit of like the early or mid COVID days when Wordle came out. And everyone was like, did you do the, word of the day? Did you figure out the word of the day? There's that collective human experience that I feel like we miss when everything comes out at once and you get fed all of this.
Like there's like a community sense.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember like HQ, that game.
Yeah, because you had to tune in
HQ.
at that specific time. Yeah.
Yeah, the worldwide phenomenon of HQ. Do you remember that?
I don't think so.
It was like a mobile app, and at 2 p.m. every day, or during the week, or no, maybe it was every day.
Yeah. So
It would be like you would get a notification on your phone, and if you're out in public, you would hear mass
wow.
amounts of these notifications, and everybody would stop what they were doing, and it was a trivia game,
like live.
live trivia.
When
game.
was this? Like what
This
year
was-
was this?
Before the pandemic, maybe like, I don't know, 2018, 2019.
Yeah, something. like
Oh,
that.
okay. So pretty recent.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's very, very interesting. Okay, one more question or thought on this, and then we'll move on to my next topic. Unconscious or subconscious delivery. You know what that is? It's like whenever the moment of your day when your brain, your subconscious, like delivers thoughts to you.
Mm.
Like some people have it when they're driving, or maybe it's not a time; it's a thing you do. Like a lot of times, it's the shower. Maybe like people are doing the dishes. Mine is definitely driving. I think of a lot of things when I'm driving. What about y'all?
Driving's big. Going for walks. I do a ton of walks during the day. And sometimes I'll intentionally go for a walk to think about a thing. I'm like, all right, I'm scheduled this walking time for
cool.
this for this subject. But I'll also do it when I go to bed sometimes, and it will be, it's going to sound kind of sad. Like my reward for going to bed on time is like, you can think about whatever you want for the next.
That is one of the most psychotic things I've ever heard of in my life.
Well, I'll have some sort of like creative project. I'm like, all right, well, you have to go to bed.
Giving you license to lay in bed and think about
Yes, it's
something that's been bothering you all day.
It is my reward for going to bed when I don't want to go to bed. But I'll say, okay, you can think about whatever you want for the next 30 minutes, and I'll close my eyes. It'll think, and I'll have these thoughts.
And then
about
do
it.
you wake up with the answer?
Never. No. Sometimes I will, but then sometimes it goes off the rails, and I end up staying up late in thought. So it's not a perfect system, Tarica.
Got it.
Okay, what about you?
Okay, so same, walking, driving, but also, so midday showers.
Okay,
So I will actually...
interesting concept.
Okay, maybe it's Nina. When I was working on Kaba with Nina and Katie, I constantly in the middle of the day be like, I need to go take a shower. Because I would get stuck spinning my wheels on something. And I know that if I just like release it, go shower, it's almost like I cleanse myself.
Interesting.
There's something ceremonial about that.
Yeah, so I would take these midday showers, and that went on for like weeks, but it really worked.
Okay, I'll
Yeah.
give that a shot.
Yeah.
Okay, Dina.
Yeah, I feel like all those things, like the like passive activity thing, like for me, like I'll get really zen when I like clean the house, like just like tidying up or like doing the dishes, and then I'll like think of all these things, or like folding the laundry. I actually really, really like just like sitting on the bed and like slowly folding all the laundry and like thinking about stuff. But yeah, and also I do the same thing that you do, where like if I go to bed early, I'll be like, some alone time to think.
Okay,
Cuts both ways.
all
I'll say.
right. I have whenever we're done with this, I will tell you about an idea that I have sort of related to that. That's for another topic. Okay, we'll jump forward. Again, this one's going to be AI related, so get ready. So it's an article that I came across, and the title was "The Future of Product Design: From Creators to Curators in an AI-First World." And so this was actually published like last week, March 18th. And it kind of speaks to the fact that, traditionally designers like ourselves were the primary creators of like wireframes, user flows, prototypes, basically everything related to the, creating an implementable product or experience, right? But with the rise of like advanced AI tools, like we've been speaking about, no code platforms, like some of the stuff that you have been playing around with, Dina, like the role is evolving to a degree to be like a driver in the driver's seat, and you're just like navigating this tool. And so now, like all these tools being able to generate like tons of drafts, you feed it potentially a scenario at least, and it could give you recommendations for like how to optimize that. And so like being able to like focusing on like AI and the relationship of a designer with AI, like, is this something that you all are thinking about or, implementing or leveraging in any way? I know that like ChatGPT is like extremely prevalent because it's just like it just helps expedite a lot of things. But like from a creative aspect, like I don't use any like generative AI things to generate like wireframes or anything like that. But
I don't
like
think I do either.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think so. I think, I mean, I feel like for that stuff, it's like a certain level of taste cannot be replicated with AI. And like, I feel like with some of the other tools too, like you still need to know how to guide it to get to the right thing. You can't just have like any old prompt, like, so I feel like there's still some skill that comes in with that. That's why like I can't figure out how to use Midjourney because it takes a lot of skill to figure out how to craft this prompt.
For sure.
Yeah, I haven't used it for any like wireframing or design things, but I did recently use one for like a coding assistant. And that was actually really, really cool because like for some of the more like complex, like I think they use like JavaScript and like Python. I like don't really know how to do that, but I can at least describe what I want. And it felt like I was just talking to like a really, really smart developer. The way that like it responded to was just like really intelligent. I was really, really impressed. Like I would be like, okay, like I want to create this app that can like give us lunch suggestions based on this list of nearby places to the office. And it's like, okay, well to do that, I need to do this and this and this. And they'll be like, okay, and can you add like this tag for like a quick place? And then I'll be like, okay, to do that, I need to like change this in the repo, blah, blah, blah. It was like really, really cool. It was like having like a little assistant. But it took a lot of back and forth. It wasn't just like one prompt to get there. It was like, it took me like 2 days to kind of like get the finished thing. But it was,
But I feel like
think that's very powerful.
that's what it would be building towards, right? Like you become an expert at using these tools in design, and somebody else could pick up those tools, but it would take them a long time to kind of onboard. And I would think that a worry I would have if I were not a designer and I came across these tools is this some sort of pre-baked thing? Like how many other people are getting these things delivered to them from these prompts? So that makes me feel some better because I feel like, all right, well, where's the edge that we might have is, okay, well, we know how to use these tools and we know how to work with them in a way that's going to produce something that's unique to what we're trying to give clients. And so that makes me feel hopeful, I think.
Yeah.
Well, also, I think, I guess, okay, going back to Dina's comment, do you find that it's helpful that it's letting you kind of look under the hood, right? In the sense that it's not just giving you the solution, it's kind of showing you the work, because then you can kind of go through, right?
Definitely. Like, I think that's what I liked so much about this. It was like very transparent with like what it was doing at each step. Like in the chat, it would like keep saying like, okay, I'm doing this and this. And sometimes it would catch things too. Like it was like, I would ask it to do something. And then while it was doing this, it's like, oh, I also discovered this thing wasn't working properly. Let me do that. And it wasn't even something I prompted it on. So like, I think all of that, it made it feel more like you're just having someone who's like an expert in this assist you in your helping your idea. But I think seeing under the hood
it's almost like a jump off point for your other thoughts, right?
Yeah.
Rather than the solution. So, tying it back to what you said, at least for me, I'm not worried about it either because we are not using it at face value, because what it's spitting out is not necessarily, like you said, there's an element of taste, there's an element of strategy, there's an element of experience that we bring to the table, right? Where
Mhm.
we can discern good work from lower quality work, and to the inexperienced or untrained person, they might see it as all the same.
Yeah.
Like it'd be a very different experience if you just like wave a magic wand and then it's done and you don't know how they did it, and like then the AI is taking all of this like liberty with like what they think that you want versus like having that more nuanced approach to using it.
Yeah,
Would you
nuance.
say that though there's a difference? I'm not saying there is. I'm wondering, like from an engineering standpoint, like asking an AI to make something, it's either it works or it doesn't, right? And then how much subjectivity is baked into that when it comes to like the design of that thing? Sounds like there's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Because what we're talking about, like taste, like that's going to be very much so like grounded in, I think, a very human perspective, unless the AI is trained to be a human. I don't know. I don't know. But basically, I guess what I'm wondering is like, do you imagine that there's still a relationship there though between like human and AI? Because like, you know, even 2 years ago, it was like, oh, AI is coming for our jobs. AI is coming for our jobs. But kind of what I'm feeling now is like people are kind of tempering that fear and being like, oh, actually, humans are going to need to be around.
Sure.
But we're going to need to be curators and guiders of this thing.
People that know how to use AI are coming for your jobs.
Ooh,
Probably.
hot take. That's a good one. That's a good one.
But there's always, or I would hope that there would continue to be the relational aspect. I mean, especially in what we do, right? Like we have clients that come to us and they want something cool and unique because they've seen other work that we've done that is seemingly cool and unique. And I think you'd want somebody, a human at the helm of that you think is going to provide some sort of taste or some sort of wealth of experience that's going to influence this design. And I would imagine like that continues stronger and stronger and stronger. Like you're going to want a human attached to this thing to provide a very strong set of taste in whatever you're doing. I mean, it could be design related, but like that sort of specialization, I would imagine, would just get more sharp.
I also think that there is going to be space for both, though, because if you think about it, ever since the dawn of modern design, there's always been this alternative path that is cheaper, faster, whatever, right? Where anyone can go online to one of these like third-party sites and be like, make me a logo for da 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 da, and it'll look kind of okay, right? And yet there are still agencies like ours that get work. There are numerous agencies. You can go and, purchase a theme on Shopify and have an e-commerce site up in 30 seconds. That's still around. And yet there are still people building and designing custom sites. And I think that there's just going to be room for both in terms of AI. It's going to, I don't think it's going to be an equalizer, is what I'm saying. It's going to just offer more variety. It's going to allow people who can't access the more, customized level of design to be able to come in at the level that they can come in and even participate.
Interesting.
Right?
Yeah, I would imagine I agree with all of that. And it makes me think that the good enough design, there's going to be a lot of it out there. Like the stuff that you can get on Canva that was produced by AI. Like there's so many businesses and people out there that think like they see that like, hey, that's good enough for what I'm doing for my purposes. Totally. Let's run with that.
Yeah.
And there's going to be so much more of that out there, which would make me think there would also be more demand for something that's not that.
Right. Yeah. It makes me think whenever you mentioned Midjourney, Dina, it made me think of like that each one of those like generative AI platforms like seem like they all have their own personality. Like Midjourney is a little bit darker, a little bit mysterious-y in the outputs that it has, and then like DALL-E has their own type. So like to that point though, that, and I have heard this too, that the look, and it's also in words too, like the look and the way that like in the look that a generative AI puts things together is kind of becoming recognizable to what you were saying, Jack. And then even the words are becoming recognizable, the way that it strings things together.
Totally.
So like that like maybe in a weird way, in a weird world, the value of the human mind will go up.
Totally. It makes me think about wanting things that I'm not going to say are worse, but are different in interesting ways, right? Like if you add some sort of human element, like I can tell that someone made this and it's not perfect, or it looks kind of odd to my eyes, and that's not going to apply to all clients and projects. But I think I would like that more if I knew, even if it was, I don't know, if it was different or worse in some ways. Again, not everything, but I think that's interesting.
It's like that craftsman type, artisan.
Yeah. But I feel like a good analogy is like when Instagram was first invented and the smartphone, did photographers disappear and go away? No, they didn't. It just broadened the field for the everyday person to take halfway decent photos, right? And now
that's putting it nicely.
Yeah, everyone can take halfway decent photos, and then you still have the professional photographers, even if they have the decent lens, right in their pocket, and even if they have all these filters that are kind of doing it for you. It makes me wonder if AI will be the same, where it's like, here's the field. Now all of this can be done.
Yeah. I think it's a great point, but does that also underscore what Jack was saying about like, people that know how to tune it,
know
how to tweak it, know how to write it, those are the people coming for jobs.
I mean, if you, same thing, Instagram, if you look at the professional photographers' feeds or account, you know that they are professional. That's better than my pictures of my kids on,
No. Too far. You went too far.
I love my pictures.
Cute kids.
I do think and I do like in a way how accessible like all these tools, like the no code tools, are making things. Because before it's like, if you have an idea, you have to like hire a developer or like someone to like make it for you. But now it's a lot easier for you to be able to do that yourself, at least a version that's like enough to validate the idea.
Exactly.
So you're just getting so many more people with their ideas.
It lowers the barrier to entry, right? Totally. And then it's like the grade is still up here, but the entry point isn't here anymore. It's like way down here.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I think it'll just keep going. Obviously, the world with AI changes so fast. And so we're just going to keep figuring it out. We'll just keep asking ChatGPT what's next.
How should I feel?
Tell me what to
Explain
do.
what's happening right now. I'm a psychotic.
What should I wonder about?
Yeah. Do you wonder, ChatGPT?
Oh, that's a good one. I don't think I've asked it that, but maybe I will. Okay, last topic, sort of related. Actually, really related. Actually, now that I think about it. But it was something that this was maybe a week or so ago too. I kept seeing multiple people posting about this topic, and it's the question of like, is Figma losing its grip? And I kind of dug into that, and yes, they're talking about AI. Yes, it's how is the platform going to evolve and change and shift or whatever. But the impetus of it was thinking about Sketch, because Sketch was a dominator of the design world, right? At one point in time. And then this cool new tool came on the scene, Figma. And it changed the way that people worked. And, obviously allowed for a lot of things. And what happened to Sketch? It's nowhere. Oh, sad face, Dina.
No,
you really like Sketch.
I'm just trying to think like.
I will make a proposal that we go back to.
We need more version control.
Yeah.
That's what we want. We want branching. We want
I'm just
save
trying to
over
think,
copies.
Like what is replacing Figma?
Well, they're talking about like the rise of these no code platforms and these AI generative AI tools that can generate wireframes and generate all of this. Like, I imagine, I can't say that Figma is going to go away. However, I think that another piece of what these people were saying is that Figma has yet to release anything significantly AI driven in their platform. They've done some stuff, but like to be able to harness that power and provide those types of functionalities and capabilities to the design world in that tool would be pretty insane.
Sure.
And so like they're saying like if this is not me saying it, but in these articles they're like, oh, if Figma doesn't come up with something in the next 6 to 9 months, they're going to start running into some problems.
Maybe I'm not cued into this enough. I don't immediately think, oh, Figma is in trouble, but
By the way, these are not my words. This is what I
no, these are your words.
Yeah.
I saw it.
Sorry,
Don't walk it back.
We all heard it.
Yeah. You don't like Figma. Yeah, I guess I don't immediately think that. I think it's still got a pretty good grip on the design community. It still has good stuff. I'm using it every day. Everybody that I know in this job is using it every day. And I would think that there's so many companies that are coming out with a generative AI version of everything. Like, hey, this is going to give you 20 different versions of something. Like, I would imagine that's around the corner for them, but I don't know.
But I'm kind of like, is that even necessary for something like Figma? Like, does everything have to have a touch of AI in it? Like, I don't know. If it had those features, I don't know if I'd use them.
Well, okay, to that point, and to follow up on that, so maybe it's not one thing would kill Figma, but maybe it's 100 other things that starts to take market share away from Figma.
What would it have to be, though? I mean, what are we truly missing as designers?
Well, it's funny because the first thing that comes to mind was one of our other fellow designers. She's on a new project, and she and I had been on another project mid last year, and she was in the office the other day, and she's like, "Hey, Tony, look at this. Does this look familiar?" And I was like, "Oh, that looks like that other thing." And she's like, "It does, right?" And I was like, "That's enterprise design." It's like patterns are becoming so established and so defined in certain verticals and industries and niches that like, you know, ask an AI to build a dashboard for a fintech company. Okay, cool. We can probably easily knock that out in like 2 seconds. You know, how much like reinventing the wheel is it when it comes to like a fintech dashboard?
Right.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, how many times have we seen that? But it's kind of what we talked about before. Like, I feel like there will be, these tools are going to be so quick to establish a new normal of really easily available things that will need people to come in and shake it up. Or there'll be some company that does something that's like totally different. It's like going back to, is it skeuomorphic design, that kind of stuff. Like someone did that or spearheaded that, and like that's coming back now in some interesting way.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, do we think that there is going to be like a correction point, or will it keep going? Like, for instance, with cars, right? I know a lot of us are pulling our hair out with the touch screen. I know I am. Like, what happened to buttons? And we're digital designers, but still, I miss the tactile quality and the feedback that you get from pressing a button. There isn't that satisfaction where you hit a screen and then you're like, did it happen? You know? So I feel like, at least collectively, most people in the general public and designers feel like car designers have gone too far.
Yeah. That's
but at the same time, is it going to pull back, or will they all just say, well, no, because this is more affordable and it's better for our bottom line? I don't know. I wonder if the same thing will happen with AI, where we have to kind of go too far for a correction to happen, you know?
Yeah, but I do think, I'm kind of with you. I do think one will happen because, like, I've seen some of those like AI tools that do the wireframes, for example, and like, I don't know, they're not like anything revolutionary. It's like just kind of your standard stuff. And if you have enough experience as a designer, you could come up with those too. Maybe it would take you like not 5 seconds, but like an hour or two. But like, it's not like AI has something that's not in your head if you have enough experience, I guess. In a way, I'm like, it's almost like they're just kind of giving like the fluff, you know? And I feel like eventually it's like, that's not useful. If you have enough experience, you can skip past that.
Yeah.
But eventually it will get enough. Like, there's no way with enough time and iteration on these things that it's not going to be like wireframes. It's got to be around the corner where it's going to be usable. I mean, I've seen some instances where I guess it's ChatGPT is trying to generate something, and it looks like, you know, somebody took their glasses off, and like I have no idea what I'm looking at. I'm like, oh, this is like a fuzzy thing with glyphs on it. You know, I don't really know what it's trying to communicate. But eventually, it's going to be so good where like this is going to be a sharp, crisp wireframe that's going to be usable for me, and I would use it. I would think, like, all right, yeah, what do I care?
Or
Yeah.
okay, what about this? I had a thought too. Sorry to interrupt you. So you think about like, okay, moving past wireframes, right?
Mhm.
So into like more stylized, higher fidelity, like you're delivering this, then engineering are going to build it. What if you fed a massive design system to an AI, and then it could just create from that, right? Because that was a question also kind of posed in this whole thing is like, what about all of these companies that have these like super robust, massive, like Figma based design systems, and they're moving to these creationary tools of AI? Like, what does that relationship look like? So like, I don't know.
That's interesting. It makes me think about what we were talking about earlier with coolers, that color randomizer, because you come in with an initial color, you hit the space bar, you randomize it. And that's what that makes me think of. Like you feed it some sort of design system, and then you're just panning through the options as the designer. And then you're going to select, hey, this feels right. Why does this feel right? I don't know, some sort of intuition on user experience that might make you think that. But
Yeah, and I think that's actually a really brilliant use case.
I do too. I think that's great.
Not to try to get rid of our jobs, but if a company were to be able to streamline that process, right, where they're in rapid prototyping kind of phase, and they say, "Here's a design system. We need to solve for this. Give us 3 solutions," and then they take that and do user testing on it, and then they refine it, right? Like, I feel like that is a pretty smart way to utilize AI in its current sort of like infancy stage. And I think going back to what Dina was saying, that it's only producing, its limitations are us right now because we are the data source for it, right? It's being fed. The entire language model is basically us and the information that's out there that humans have created thus far. I think the point of inflection is going to be when it somehow figures out how to outsmart us. And then now it's like, that's old news. And now it's developing new things beyond what we can. Like, when does that happen? That's when I'm really going to be scared.
Yeah.
We're actively throttling this thing's capabilities to do good work. It's like, are you sure you don't want to do this?
Yeah.
Like, no, I would know.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think Figma will go away by any means anytime soon. And I this is not based on anything, but I imagine they would release some cool AI stuff.
I would too.
Yeah.
And it seems like there's such an adoption issue where it feels like Figma is everywhere now, and there's a bit of a lag time with that too. Like big, massive companies and industries adopt this software. Like it's kind of slow to leave if it were on its way out, I would imagine.
Yeah. That's all I got. I appreciate you all coming in, sitting down, and talking things out with me. And I don't know, opening my mind to some certain things. We talked about some stuff along the way that I didn't think about whenever I was reading these articles and putting this together. So I appreciate that.
Yeah. Thank you. This is fun.
Yeah.
Made some memories.
Yeah.
Do you think people know that this was an entirely AI conversation?
Well, when they notice the glitching, that's when they'll
Yeah.
realize.
Yeah.
They can hear the wireframes being produced by the computer in the background.
Well, cool. Thanks, y'all. And thank you for listening, and stay tuned for more.